I was up to my knees in rice paddies with guns, and then we're going up against Charlie, slugging it out with him, while pussies like you were back here partying, putting headbands on, doing drugs, listening to the goddamn Beatle albums. How come? Tell me why. Say it. Say it.
A good teacher. He really seems to care. About what, I have no idea.
From the world-famous Blackbird Studios, it's the RaveX Podcast. And now, RaveX.
Oh, hey there, strangers. Thanks for tuning into the show, the RaveX Podcast, episode 105, Come Undone. I'm your host, Avery Brooks. So, guys, it's been a long time, man. I took the summer off, did a little summer hiatus from doing podcasting just so I could work on other things. But I am back, man, and this is a very special show because today's my birthday, man. That's right, your boy, Rock Hard RaveX. It's his birthday, and I'm turning old. I'm not happy about it, but we're gonna barrel through it and record a podcast, man. I always try to do a show on like special days, like New Year's Day. I always do a show on New Year's Day. On my birthday, before I take off to have a few drinks or party or whatever, I always try to get in a good podcast for you guys, especially, it's been so long, it's been months, and people were asking me, when's the show coming back? The answer is now, it's coming back right now. So RaveX Podcast, episode 105, Come Undone. As you heard at the top of the show, that was the great Sam Kinison, absolutely coming undone and losing it in a classroom when someone asked him about the Vietnam War. So what I got for you here is a list of the top 5 scenes, at least to me, of characters completely coming undone. And not just once in the middle of the movie, but the progression of watching them lose it. Maybe they start off the movie calm, and as the movie goes on, they become more and more unhinged and just really coming apart at the seams. Now, my list is going to differ from yours, guys. But that's why you can hit me up on Facebook and let me know, hey, you forgot about this movie or that movie. Anyway, RaveX Podcast number 105. I haven't podcasted in so long, I forgot how to do it. RaveX Podcast number 105, Come Undone. Let's start at the top of the list now, kids. You ready? Let's dive in. Now, I did a little poll on Facebook to see how many people remember this movie or have even seen this movie. We're talking about 1975. Boy, I was just a young RaveX then. Barely a year old. A movie that I remember seeing on Channel 56. They play it all the time. Dog Day Afternoon with Al Pacino. Now, if you watch this movie, I don't want to give too much away because I want you to see the movie. Him and his friend decide they're going to rob a bank. They get to the bank, and he's like, where's the money? Where's the money? And the woman says, they already picked up the money at 11 o'clock. So there's no money in the bank, you know what I mean? There's nothing there. He can't leave because the cops are out there. The whole thing becomes a major cluster F, you know what I mean? And it's just crazy. He's got hostages. He thought he was just going to go in there, get the money, ask for a helicopter, and get out. And it becomes this huge ordeal, man. And as time goes on, Al Pacino just starts to lose it. It is a masterclass in acting from the great Al Pacino. Now, this is young Al Pacino. I always group him into 3 categories. Young Al Pacino, middle Al Pacino, and then later Al Pacino, right? This is vintage young Al Pacino. And he's in this bank, and he's trying to deal with the hostages. He's clearly in over his head, and he just starts to come apart at the seams, you know what I mean? He really starts to come undone in this movie. From 1975, Dog Day Afternoon. And, I mean, by the end of the movie, you're exhausted just watching him, because he can't take it anymore. And it ends the way it ends, how it ends. And it's probably for the best, because you couldn't go much longer with this guy just completely coming undone. 1975, Dog Day Afternoon. Okay, so number 4 here, man, kind of controversial. I've talked about this before, a lot of people have. I'm talking about 2013's Man of Steel. The character who comes undone, General Zod. Now, some people love this movie. I love it. I think it's a classic. Some people hate this movie, whatever. But the villain from Krypton, General Zod, what you realize throughout the movie, he starts off, he's very calm. He says, I'm here for this and that, and this is why. As the movie goes on, you can see it in his eyes. Now, Michael Shannon plays the great General Zod, and he's not the type of guy who raises his voice a lot. He's not a yeller. He's not I'm going to punch the wall and scare you. General Zod always just kind of talks like this. In fact, there's one scene where Superman says to Zod, You knew my father? You killed him? And Zod says, you know something, Cal? There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about your father. At one point, I even considered him a friend. and when I killed him, I regretted it. You know, no matter what he's talking about, General Zod is always very calm because he's genetically programmed to be that way. And you have to really pay attention. As the movie goes on, he realizes he has nothing to live for. Now, you heard of suicide by cop. I've always thought that what General Zod did was suicide by Kryptonian. He has nothing to live for. He says dozens of times throughout the movie, everything I do for the planet Krypton. And now I have no Krypton. And he keeps trying to get Superman to come at him harder and harder. And he says, Kal-El is Superman's Kryptonian name. And he says, for every one human you save, I'll kill 1,000,000. And then they fight, and he's really trying to get Superman to kill him. And at the end, he breaks his neck. And that was the kind of controversial part. I always thought Superman had to do what had to be done. But you pay attention to Zod's facial expressions, his eyes, how he gets more and more angry, more and more violent. And, you know, you realize that Zod, even though he's genetically programmed to stay calm, this whole thing is so much for him that he's starting to come undone. You know what I mean? And he's dealing with it the only way he knows how. And then he realizes that I have nothing to live for. So from 2013, talk about a guy coming completely undone. The villain. Or if you look at it from his perspective, the hero. General Zod. Now, this next one coming in at number 3 is one of my all-time favorite movies, man. It's not an easy movie to watch because it's so gritty, and it's so like it could happen to the guy next door. From 1993, Michael Douglas classic, Falling Down. Now, if you've seen this movie, you know exactly why this is on my list of characters who come undone. You know, it starts off, you know, this bad stuff's happening to this guy. He's unemployed. He's divorced. He's just had it up to here with society. He can't take it anymore. Just constructions, the trash, the gangs, the taxes, just everything. He's in traffic in Los Angeles heat, man, and finally he just snaps. And, you know, he goes and he gets some guns, and he's just kind of wreaking havoc on the city. And there's this one scene that I remember, that everyone remembers, where he goes into the gun store and is like this old Vietnam vet, or maybe a World War II vet, behind the counter, and Michael Douglas is telling him, you know, like, man, you know, I just can't take this stuff anymore. Someone needs to fight back. And the vet goes, hey, man, I know what you mean. And he like pushes a button, and the curtain goes back, and he's got all this Nazi stuff, right? And he's like, it's the blacks and the gays and the Jews. And then Michael Douglas looks at him like, hey, bro, you know what? I'm trying to fight back against the system. I'm not trying to kill, you know, Jews and blacks and gays. I don't have a problem with them. And he ends up killing the Nazi in the gun store, I believe. And then Michael Douglas now has guns. As the movie goes on, he just gets more and more undone. And you see, you know, his glasses break in one shot, and he still keeps wearing his glasses. And that's like a symbol of him breaking. You know what I mean? He's looking through life through these, literally a broken lens, you know, and he's, you know, talking to the construction workers and going, why is this road always under construction? And the construction worker tells him, like, hey, man, if we don't tear up the road at least once a year, we lose our funding. And he's like, that's what I thought, you know. And just he goes into the burger shop. And at this point, he's just going crazy, right? And he looks at the big, juicy, delicious burger up at the sign. And then he looks at the burger that they give him, which is this mushed down, you know, cheeseburger. It's not what it looks like in the picture. And he's like, hey, man, get your manager. I want the burger in the goddamn picture. It's really crazy, you know what I mean? But I'll tell you something interesting, little fun fact. There's a pretty girl at the front counter who waits on him at the burger place, and her name is Dee Dee Pfeiffer. That is Michelle Pfeiffer's younger sister. Didn't do a lot of big things you might know about. That's kind of her one claim to fame, is she's the girl at the cash register who helps Michael Douglas, and she's trying to be so nice that she goes and gets her manager. Anyway, that's Michelle Pfeiffer's younger sister, Dee Dee Pfeiffer. And yeah, Michael Douglas just goes on wreaking havoc on the town of Los Angeles, man. You know, fighting back because he's had it up to here. And you watch this guy completely come undone. Anyway, if you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend it. From 1993, the great Michael Douglas and the classic movie Falling Down. This next movie, man, I saw it as a kid. I probably shouldn't have been watching because I was too young, and it's just definitely one of the most scariest, freakiest movies, at least to me, because of what a slow burn it is. I'm talking from 1980, Jack Nicholson in The Shining. Again, Ravex Podcast number 105, characters coming completely undone. You know, he's a writer. You guys have all seen The Shining. He's hallucinating. He's going crazy. He's getting violent towards his wife. And I don't think anyone can do it better. You know, we talked about Al Pacino at the top of the show. Al Pacino can go crazy! Jack Nicholson can go batshit crazy. And in The Shining, this was his own sort of movie and vehicle just for him to sort of show his acting. He can play calm. He can, his face is so expressive. He'll walk into a room and not say anything, but you look at Jack Nicholson's face and you can tell what he's thinking, which is always a sign of a great actor, And as the movie goes on, he just loses it and loses it and loses it, and all of these weird hallucinations with the old woman in the bathtub and just that the hotel is playing, messing with his mind. And of course, when he hacks through the door to get at his wife, played by Shelley Duvall, and he just says, here's Johnny, and he's just going nuts. I really can't think of another character in a movie who comes apart at the seams more than Jack Nicholson, but I had to put him somewhere on the list, because number one is one of my all-time favorite movies and performances. But yeah, Jack Nicholson, The Shining, 1980, completely coming unhinged, man. RaveX Podcast, episode 105, Come Undone. Top 5 characters absolutely losing it on screen. Now, number one is a movie that's kind of strange because it started off as this sort of, a message on veterans and PTSD and how we don't treat them right. And this really sort of has, they would say, a tour de force performance by Sylvester Stallone. I'm talking about 1982 movie First Blood, or Rambo First Blood. And, the thing that's funny about the Rambo series is as it went on, he kind of became like an action hero. Like Rambo 2, he's a full-on, action hero for America. And that's really not what First Blood was about. Anyway, if you've seen this movie, man, he's a Vietnam vet. He's looking for his friend. He wanders into a town in Washington, and almost immediately the police just start giving him crap. And the cop stops him, asks him some questions, and he tells him, I'm just trying to get some food. I'm trying to meet up with my friend. And the other cops tell him, hey man, with your long hair and you're a veteran and we don't like your kind around here, you better stay out of trouble. And he's like, I'm going to stay out of trouble, And you've seen the movie. What they do to this poor guy, throughout the movie, and then eventually they kind of force him to defend himself, and maybe it wasn't the right thing, but when he's in the jail and they're messing with him and they're beating him for no reason, he's got to fight back, dude. And he does, and he gets out there. He's living out in the woods of Washington. He's setting up these booby traps for him. His mind goes back to being a soldier in Vietnam, and he had PTSD. I don't know if they mention it that much, but back then there wasn't a lot of help for soldiers and veterans. You just got out of a horrible, crazy war where your friend got his head blown off next to you, and then they go, yeah, now just go back home and get a job at like a Denny's or something, And so this movie definitely had a message about, the veterans and how they come back messed up and they need help. You see Rambo, he's calm and he's cool until the shit hits the fan, and then he literally goes back to being the fighting machine that they bred him to be. Then they call in his superior officer, played by Richard Crenna. I can't remember his name. And, Richard Crenna's like, who you're dealing with is the best of the best. He was a Green Beret. He was a sniper. He, did guerrilla warfare in Nam. You can't possibly win against this guy. And the police lieutenant says something like, anything else we need to know or need to have, And he goes, yeah, a good supply of body bags. Because Richard Crenna, served with Rambo. He was his commanding officer, and he knows that these small town cops do not know what they're up against. And as the movie goes on, man, it's sad. It's not a rah 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 America movie, which is what sort of Rambo Part 2 became, right? It's sad, and when he finally meets up with his commanding officer, Richard Crenna, and I think they're in like an office building after he shoots up a gas station. He gets this big Rambo gun, the M60, which is usually mounted to the side of a helicopter. And he's just shooting up the place, and he's screaming after he kills all these cops and stuff. And, his commanding officer's trying to tell him, like, Rambo, this is it. Give it up. It's over. And he's got that classic line, man. He says, it's not over till I say it's over. And for me, I always interpreted that as he had no control when he was in Vietnam. But with this little skirmish he's got going on with these local Washington state cops, he's calling the shots now. He's taking control. And he tells Richard Crenna that this ain't over until I say it's over, And then he falls back against the wall, and he's got his head in his hands, and he cries. This big tough guy, he cries. And if you watch this and you don't get a tear in your eye, man, you're not human. And he's just telling him how, Stallone's got that voice like this. So when he cries, it makes it sound even more sort of guttural and primal, you know, and he's telling him, like, they sent me off to this war, and I don't know what's going on, and my friends are getting shot and killed, and I don't know, and you're just watching it going, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like, what's happening to this veteran, he just needs help and a hug, you know, and he's saying, like, you know, they make me into this killing machine, and then I come back here, and I get treated like this, and you're just like, holy shit, you know what I mean? But you want to talk about a movie with the lead character, John Rambo, completely comes apart, man. You know, and not his fault, man. He's trying to hold on the best he can, but he just can't hold on anymore. From 1982, Rambo First Blood. A classic movie. All of these movies are classics, right? You've got Rambo, The Shining, Falling Down, Man of Steel, Dog Day Afternoon. With the exception of Man of Steel, these aren't easy films to watch. But like I said, a character study and good acting, and how, you know, anyone can play the hero. You know, Wesley Snipes can walk in and play the hero. You know, Jean-Claude Van Damme walks in and plays the hero. But to reach down deep into yourself and cry and come apart when you've had it up to here and you can't take anymore, you know, I think that we've all had those days, you know. I mean, I was at work, and, you know, you guys follow me on Facebook, you know, I hate my coworkers. I see it all the time. I hate like 2 out of 6 of my coworkers, but still, it's a strong hatred. One of my coworkers I hate so much, you know, I don't want to confess to anything here, but I went and I punched something and I broke it, and I just told the powers that be that, you know, it fell off the wall or whatever, and I really lost it, man. I had to, you know, calm myself down and compose myself. And even though I've taken years of martial arts and Shaolin Kung Fu to discipline myself, I still find myself at times coming apart at the seams, you know? And the thing that works for me is to just kind of go and be alone, you know, because whatever you're going through and you're coming apart and coming undone, it will probably pass in an hour or two, unless it's something really serious. The worst you can do is take it out on other people, man. And it took me into my 30s before I learned that. But yeah, these characters here in these movies, man, you know, it's a movie, it's in the script. They didn't really have the option to just walk away and be by themselves. So anyway, that is going to wrap it up for me, man. The Rave X Podcast, episode 105, Come Undone. Now, I didn't release anything new music-wise except for a quick little thing I did called the Rave X Funk Bass Solo. Check that out on YouTube, man. Also, you can follow me on Facebook, man, facebook.com/Rave X Music. You know what? I'm going to have a QR code at the end of this podcast, so you can follow me on Instagram. It's Rave_X_music on the Instagram, like the cool kids have. And check out my band Choose Your Power, the greatest band you never heard of. Until next time, kids, click like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and do me a favor. Remember this. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. My name's Rave X. Today's my birthday. Enjoy yourself.
That was the Rave X Podcast. Be sure to click like and subscribe. For podcasts, new music, and all things Rave X, go to youtube.com and search Rave X Music.